7 years old. His name was Liam King, an autistic child whose world was small, fragile, and desperately in need of protection. He should have been in the care of people who saw his differences not as burdens, but as reasons to love him even more. But instead of love, he was surrounded by neglect. Instead of safety, he found danger. And instead of a future, his life was cut short before it even had the chance to begin. Liam's story is heartbreaking, yes, but it is also enraging because what happened to him did not have to happen. Every sign was there. Every chance to protect him existed, and we let him down. From the very beginning, Liam's autism shaped how he connected with the world. He laughed in bursts that lit up rooms. He found joy in small things others overlooked. He was sensitive to loud sounds, sudden changes, unexpected touches. He needed comfort, patience, and stability. And yet, instead of being met with understanding, he was met with indifference. People around him said, "That's just how he is." They brushed away his tears as quirks. They explained away his bruises. They treated his silence as if it meant nothing was wrong. But silence does not mean safety. For Liam, silence was his cry for help. The neighbors heard him cry. Teachers saw the exhaustion in his eyes. Relatives noticed he was slipping further away. And each time, warnings were raised, calls were made, words were spoken. But every warning ended the same way: buried in files, minimized by excuses, ignored by those who had the power to act. The truth is chilling. Liam's suffering was no secret. It was visible. It was known. It was heard. But it was easier for everyone to look away. And here is where the guilt belongs, not only on those inside his home, but on all of us, on every teacher who hesitated to press harder, on every official who stamped a case low priority, on every community member who shook their head, said that poor boy, and then went about their day. It is on a system that prioritizes procedure over people, numbers over names, budgets over children's lives. Liam deserved more than that. He deserved everything we claim to stand for: safety, dignity, and a chance at life. And instead, he was abandoned. 7 years. That's all he was given. 7 years of laughter, cut short. 7 years of struggle, misunderstood. 7 years before silence became permanent. And now we tell ourselves it's a tragedy. We whisper, "How sad." But the truth is, it was preventable. We could have stopped this. He could still be here today. And that should haunt us. Imagine his last days. A little boy, autistic, confused, vulnerable, unable to explain in words the pain he was feeling, unable to find safety in the people around him, unable to escape. We often say children are resilient, but resilience should never be demanded of a child who is being hurt. Resilience should never be an excuse for inaction. And yet, for Liam, it was. Do we really value children like Liam, or do we only pretend to care once it's too late? How many more Liams must there be before we admit that we are complicit in their deaths? These are not easy questions, but they are the questions we must face. And this is why his story must be told, because Liam is not just another name in a file. He is not just a number in a statistic. He was a boy with a laugh, with a smile, with a life that could have been. And if we do not speak his name, if we do not confront the truth of what happened, then his death becomes just another forgotten tragedy. We cannot let that happen. That is why you must share his story, spread his name, keep his memory alive. Like this video, subscribe, and share it so others hear what happened to Liam. Not for numbers, not for clicks, but because this story demands to be heard. Because every time you share, you are refusing to let the silence continue. Every time you subscribe, you are saying, Liam's life mattered. And in the comments, write your wishes for him. Write what you would say if Liam could hear you now. Because even though he's gone, your words matter. Your voices matter. They are part of what keeps his story alive. Tell the world that you wish he was found safe. Tell the world you wish he had been protected. Because those wishes are more than words. They are reminders that Liam deserved better. The record shows it all. Neighbors reporting shouting, teachers documenting missed days, relatives trying to sound the alarm. Every one of those moments could have saved him, but nothing was done. The system marked him as low risk until the risk became reality. And once again, another child was lost. What does it say about us when a child can suffer this way in plain sight? What does it say about us when the death of an autistic 7-year-old is not shocking but expected? We can no longer pretend this is rare. It happens too often. It happens again and again. And each time we mourn, but we do not change. And then another child dies, and another, and another. Liam's autism was never the tragedy. The tragedy was our refusal to understand it. The tragedy was our refusal to see his differences as reasons to care more, not less. His autism meant he saw the world differently, but he still deserved safety. He still deserved joy. He still deserved life. And we robbed him of all three. Tonight, we are not just telling his story. We are demanding accountability. We are demanding change. And we are demanding that you, the viewer, refuse to look away. Do not let his story fade. Do not let his name be forgotten. Subscribe, share, and comment. Because if we forget Liam, we will forget the next child, and the next, and the next. And that cycle cannot continue. 7 years old. That's all he was given. But through you, through your voices, through your willingness to carry his story forward, Liam's life could last longer than 7 years. His story can spark outrage. His story can ignite change. His story can keep others from suffering the same fate. Do not look away. Do not stay silent. Silence killed Liam. Let your voice be the thing that honors him now. Stay with us, because what you will hear next will uncover the disturbing details of what really happened in the home where Liam lived, the place where his cries went unheard, and the truth that was hidden for too long.
The home where Liam lived was supposed to be his refuge, the place where he felt safe, understood, and cared for. Instead, it became the very place where his cries were silenced. Behind closed doors, the world believed he was cared for, but inside those walls, the truth was far different. Records show that in the months leading up to his death, calls to authorities described loud arguments, disturbing sounds, and long nights where Liam was left alone. One neighbor admitted later, "We thought someone would step in. We thought the authorities had it under control." But the reality is, no one ever came. The system's response was paperwork, checkboxes, and closed files. And with every ignored call, Liam's chances of survival slipped away. Imagine that for a moment. A 7-year-old autistic boy, already vulnerable, left to face confusion and fear without protection. He couldn't put into words what was happening. He couldn't call for help in the way most children could. And because of that, his pain went unseen, unacknowledged, dismissed. How many children like Liam are suffering right now, hidden behind the same walls, their lives balancing on the edge while we look the other way? Teachers noticed his absences piling up. They noticed the changes in his behavior. Sudden withdrawal, sudden bursts of agitation, unexplained marks. But every time they tried to raise concern, they were told to be cautious. Don't jump to conclusions. Give the family time. Document it and move on. In other words, delay. Delay that cost Liam his life. Inside that home, there were moments no child should ever experience. Nights of shouting, days of hunger, bruises explained away as clumsy accidents. Each one of those details became another piece of evidence that something was wrong. And yet each time the people with power to stop it chose the easier path, to walk away. This is where we must face the uncomfortable truth. Liam was failed by individuals, yes, but more than that, he was failed by the culture we have created, a culture that tells us to mind our own business, a culture that convinces us that someone else will handle it, a culture that reduces children to case numbers on overloaded desks. That culture killed Liam as much as any single act of violence. You may be watching this and feeling the weight of it, and you should. This is not just a story to consume. It is a responsibility. If you feel anger, let it sit. If you feel guilt, Do not turn away. That discomfort is the proof that you know something is deeply wrong. Share his story, speak his name, keep him alive in your words, because silence is what ended his life. And ask yourself this: how could a child so visible to so many people end up invisible when it mattered most? How could warnings stack up for months without triggering urgent intervention? How many children must die before we admit that the system designed to protect them is built to fail them instead? In the aftermath of his death, agencies scrambled. Statements were made, investigations opened. Officials expressed regret, insisting they followed procedure. But procedures are meaningless when children are dead. Procedures are meaningless when the files they create become gravestones for children who never had a chance. Liam's case should not be a report on a desk. It should be a scar on our conscience. 7 years. That is all he was given. And in those 7 years, he was heard but never listened to, seen but never truly protected. His autism, his vulnerability, his differences, they should have been reasons to guard him more fiercely. Instead, they became the excuses for why his suffering was overlooked. Stay with us, because what comes next will reveal the disturbing evidence uncovered inside Liam's home after his death. Evidence that proves just how many people knew and how much was ignored. And if you haven't already, subscribe and share this story, because the more people who know Liam's name, the harder it becomes for the next child to be forgotten.